Good day, everyone. I hope everyone is having a good day. I am one myself. I'm having a good day. Thank you for all those who have been watching, subscribing, and liking, and also engaging me in the comments. Please share, like, subscribe, and share. And I usually talk mostly about geopolitics. So today, I look at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We had the meeting just happened a few days ago. For those who don't know, the Shanghai Cooperation organization, the SCO, it was formed in the year 2001. It was more of an intelligence gathering organization between India, China, and Russia, and some other few countries. But now it has grown. It has, partners, observers, other members. The last 2 days, Iran joined it, became a member after being an observer. Turkey is on its way also to join. And Turkey will be the first NATO country to join such an alliance because let's remember that the SCO is an intelligence sharing alliance between Russia, China, and India, and Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, all these former Soviet Union countries. So if Turkey joins, it applied for observership since 2013, but it's very interested to join. I call this organization, the hegemony killer gang. It's very interesting because I saw an article about calling it, the hegemony destroyer. So it's a hegemony destroyer because this organization started as an intelligence sharing organization, but now it's morphing more to to an anti-American, anti-dollarization kind of gang. Because when you see what was discussed through this meeting, actually this was the first time that President Xi has been outside China. He visited Kazakhstan first and then he went to Uzbekistan, but since the COVID. So if it really took this time to visit, I don't know, next month, there is the Politburo, that's the Chinese Communist Party group that decides who's going to become the next president of China. But you know that Xi Jinping removed the term limit. So now he has no competition. 90% of the people in the Politburo are his people. So we expect him to run a third term. And if he's traveling outside the country 1 month to this kind of election, then it means he's very confident that he's going to win. This time we had even Pakistan, United Arab Emirates were invited, Kuwait, Bahrain, they've all. So it seems that this organization is growing. And the aim of this organization is to contain and control the Western hegemony. And if you look at all the countries that I've mentioned, most of them, let me say, have an issue with the Western hegemony. If you look at Turkey, Russia, China, India is playing 50-50, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, all these countries, Belarus, all these countries, have an issue with the domination of the financial and Western political empire. So a lot of deals were signed in this meeting. The power of Serbia, the pipeline that's coming from all the way from China, from Russia to China, which is going to be supplying gas. It's one of the largest projects. China, Turkey, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, they signed a partnership where they are going to build a railway that's going to connect. China is still, in a, is still pushing for the BRI Belt and Road, especially in the Asian. Is trying to strengthen its network in the Asia. Remember that there was a railway system that was passing all from China all the way to Russia to Europe, but because of sanctions, China has decided to redirect the route and go through Turkey. Also, there's another deal between Pakistan, Afghanistan, where they were trying to connect a railway system that's going to come all the way up to the Indian Ocean for easy trade. Putin was also discussing with the Pakistani Prime Minister of creating a pipeline all the way from Russia. We know that Russia and Afghanistan and the Taliban are discussing an oil and gas pipeline, so they want to push it all the way to Pakistan. And it's very interesting that that the new Prime Minister of Pakistan was put there because he's an American-centric person. The Imran Khan was seen as a person who relied mostly to China and Russia. And we all know that the Pakistan government is controlled by the military, and the military are like they are seen as a Western, leaning to the Western side. But it's very interesting that the new prime minister has, he was in this meeting. He discussed with Putin about a new pipeline that will ensure energy security. So it means, even though Russia is losing the market in Europe, it's trying as hard as possible to get markets in Asia up and running. The Xi Jinping and Putin met. They discussed trade. Trade between these countries, two countries, has risen to $200 billion annually. They are both happy, even though probably China is the one that there's a bit of imbalance, but their cooperation is becoming stronger. But the main aim of this organization is to dollarize, to trade with each other without using the Western trading system. Let's not forget Russia was sanctioned to use SWIFT or any Western financial institution. So China has provided its own SWIFT, and the aim is of this organization is to push away. And for you to understand, you need to see the figures. 40%, this organization, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, all these countries have 40% of the world's population. So a 40% of the world population, which is moving away from the use of the dollar, that's a big threat to the Western financial system. Their GDP of these countries are high. The GDP of these countries are above 20 trillion, and combine them, that's a lot of wealth moving away from the use of the Western financial systems. And when you look at how this geopolitics game is being played, they realize that being hooked to the Western financial system is not also good for them. Turkey and Russia have agreed that they are going to start the trade of oil and gas and equipment. They're going to start, first of all, 25% of it is going to be paid through rubles. India has decided that it's going to open a bank, an account where they can trade through rupees and rubles. China the same. So there's a big shift in a way of moving away from the dollarization, and they understand that they have a big population, a big market. So you can imagine that 40% of the world's population, 20 trillion, these countries, they control one of the largest manufacturing sectors in the world. You say China, India, they have some of the world largest resource reserve, like Russia, coal, mineral, all these, Kazakhstan, these countries have oil, Uzbekistan, you know, eh, you know, the labor, the population, all these just moving away from the Western financial system. This is going to be a very big dent. And, this is I'd say a very smart move from Putin and Xi. They seem to be pushing this agenda. Now Russia, the Central Bank of Russia, is encouraging people to use the Mi payment. The Mi payment is an alternative version of the MasterCard and Visa, because Russia was sanctioned not to use. There's also an Alipay from China. And MasterCard are saying and Visa that they are not worried, but let's be honest, 40% of the world pushing away from using your system. This is not a very good sign, because if this, there's going to be another wealth creation in another part of the world that doesn't rely on the wealth system, and it's going to challenge the Western kind of system. And you can see countries like Turkey, even though they're NATO, they've been pushed. I remember in 2013, Erdogan, the president of Turkey, saying that joining the SCO means the death of and dream of Turkey joining the European Union. So he sees himself, joining the SCO because they've accepted him. Turkey has been applying to join the European Union for decades. It has never joined. So this is seen as an alternative for other leaders. And now you can understand why even America was very reluctant to supply Turkey with the F-53, because America feels even though Turkey is in NATO, it's interacting a lot with Russian countries like China, which also puts the whole NATO organization in a peculiar position. Let's not forget, Turkey was the first country to object Finland and Sweden joining the NATO. So Turkey is seen as a country that, it's not agreeing with the Western kind of ideals. And, because Turkish banks have been using the mere payments, to transact with the Russian government and the Russian people. They've received threats of sanction from the American government because Russian payments are forbidden. So you can see that the Western dominance will not sit down and expect this just to happen. But going forward, we also need to see that China, Russia, and they're in another organization also called the BRICS, China, Russia, India, because the BRICS is another also organization to counter the G7, which is also emphasizing the de-dollarization. The BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, for raising the economy. So you can see that there's a new geopolitical game plan. The Russians understand that it's going to take time before they find a new market, but as the same way the Europeans are willing to feel the pinch, I think the Russians are also willing to persevere and feel the pinch, and for the greater good, because you can see that the Europeans are willing to feel the pinch of economic rise, inflation rising, as long as it keeps Russia at bay. So I think also the Russian view the same. When this war started, I didn't think that things could change that much, but it has been a very bitter divorce. It was a marriage of convenience. Russia supplying gas to Europe, Europe giving Russia money, but the divorce has been very bitter. And you can see, all the dirty linen is out. It's very messy, and the sanctions have pushed Russia and China even more closer. Let's not forget, one is an economic power, one is another nuclear power. So if you have these two kind of systems together, uh, that's very tricky, because if they decide to emerge and attach each other, that can be a very big force. Although pundits are saying that it's very hard for the SCO to agree among themselves, because India has issues with China, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, all these countries, they have issues. But I feel the aim of this meeting is to push oneness, and I can just name a few. When you see meetings like the Western side, like NATO, America had a meeting for democracies. The Western side is a bit choosy at who it invites. The meeting of democracy, they chose not to invite other countries. The meeting of Latin American countries, they chose not to invite other countries. But the Chinese and the Russians are playing a different ball game. Even though Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, all these countries, many have issues. Even in terms of skirmishes, you know, or border clashes, they're all invited to the table. There's no selection that we won't invite you, because the aim is to try and bring them together, even though there's skirmishes, trying, to make the alliance stronger. So the China and Russia are trying to put themselves as minilateral, not a minilateral, a multilateral kind of organization, unlike the Americans who prefer more minilateral, meaning that minilateral is more of an exclusive club. Not everyone can join this club. That's why you can see that America has a summit for democracy, but it's not calling even countries that are not democracy, but they're trying, and then you can see that uh, it has a meeting of Latin Americas, but it's outlining, it's not calling other countries. So you can see that these are two different systems. But when you go to the other side of China and Russia, they are playing this kind of multilateralism where everyone is invited, and that's why even also China has made very big inroads in Africa, because when it came to Africa, it wasn't choosy; it was accepting anyone, as long as you're willing to work with it. And we saw that, government leaders, when they went to China, they were from Africa, they were received like kings. Even the smallest African country with the smallest GDP received the same respect as a president from Europe. But when you go to the other side of the Western side, there's hierarchies. Even a leader could land at the airport, the president, and the person who was sent to receive him was the ambassador or a high government official. But when you go to China, you realize that the people who are receiving you are like, second in command after Xi, the big, like, or Xi Jinping is receiving you at the airport. They pomp and colors, and enjoyment. And another thing, Xi Jinping, made a statement of these countries that are in the SCO need to be careful to avoid color revolution. There's that fear that this organization, the fact, is pushing for the de-dollarization, removal of dollar and Western dominance. This Xi was stressing that this move will not be accepted by the Western hegemony. They'll try and bring color revolution, talks of democracy, and he has a first hand of this kind of politics, because let's not forget, Hong Kong had demonstration for almost 2 years, the color revolution. We saw what Alex Navalny was trying to do in Russia. So, we saw the coup that was attempted in Kazakhstan. And so Xi was warning the leaders to be on the outlook and make sure that they stay strong, because this is how their system is going to be fought. And it's not going to be an easy transition, because the Western hegemony won't allow, won't give up without a fight. They'll try and push and push. And on the issue, another issue, I notice is that Iran has now become a member, and Iran at this point is looking at all alliances to solidify itself. Western sanctions are really grinding on its economy. The nuclear deal is taking time, and Iran wants sanctions lifted, but at the meantime, it's need to make other partnership. Iran has now made a strategic agreement with strategic partnership with Russia. They are going to work together. As we speak, from next week, 80 Russian businessmen, high-level government officials will be in Iran, in Tehran, trying to discuss trade, trying to, to look at investment. They have, they had signed military drills before. Russia Gazprom company had decided to invest in Iranian oil and energy sector. Let's not forget, Iran has one of the largest oil reserves in the world. So this is more of a hegemony killer kind of organization. They are trying to remove themselves from the hegemony of the Western and financial world, because all these countries understand that they've seen how the sanctions have really affected Russia, how the sanctions have really affected Iran, and they don't want to continue in this kind of system. They want to put their own system and let other countries choose. That's how they are portraying themselves. So it will be interesting to see going forward how this geopolitical game will play out. But at the moment, it seems that we are now in a new global world order where we'll have two centers of power. The one that's controlled by China and Russia, and the other one that's controlled by America and Germany and France and and all this country. And it seems that the motion has been set. There is no stopping now. And I'm sure even now, as we wait for President Xi to become president for the third term, it has never happened since Mao Zedong. I'm sure now, China has been very, very quiet, but I'm sure immediately he enters, we'll see changes. The things are being planned underway. Very interesting things are being planned low key, but to immediately enters into power, I'm sure heads will start rolling. He'll make some reform, he'll make some declaration, and that's my feeling. Right now, he's just being quiet because he understands that this is a very critical time. Let him get approved, and then the system can now start working. Either way, I'll just keep on analyzing and predicting how this geopolitical game will go. I think that's all for today, guys. Cheers.